if you have a chance, if you've ever watched Lightbody's Lunchtime Chats, Christina Schwinn is a presenter of those lifetime chats, those lunchtime chats on Thursdays at noon Mountain Time. The one this week is really, really, really helpful for what's happening right now. She goes into the entity piece, which is a really big piece. Like, we are really discovering entities within us. And we have been doing this work for a long time of clearing out entities, but I feel like there's like a layer of like visibility now that we can reach with entities that is, she brings a lot of really good awareness of why and how to really start working with them, with clearing out the entities. And a lot of the entities that are being revealed right now are around, like, they control even like our thoughts. Like, we think they're our thoughts, but they're not even ours. It's just entity wounding within us. Okay. So there's that piece. And she talks a lot about energetic hygiene and also how to really focus on removing those entities. That is already coming forward in the work we're going to do today. Okay. So if you have a chance, this past Thursday's lunchtime chat, so that would have been, we're on the 17th, that's probably like the 14th, Thursday the 14th on YouTube is a really great way to see it. You can go to Lightbody Academy, and you could just put on YouTube Lightbody Academy and get to the most recent lunchtime chat, because it's really, really, really helpful tools. So there's that piece that's presenting. Okay. This dark force piece that I said, that's a lot heavier right now. There's like a layer that has been presenting. And my intuition is that we're in this kind of like thicker, dense piece through mid-October. Like, it's like a bigger wave that's coming through. Then we'll get some we'll get some relief, but we're kind of in it through 2025, like 2020. But there's going to be like, I feel like there's a thicker piece that's happening right now. So the more we can pay attention to our reactions to things, if we're sensing, knowing, feeling resistance, if we're holding back in some way, paying attention to what's presenting. The piece that's in that feels like it's really coming up. And what in my morning meditations and on my walk this morning, what was really coming up were two things. How are we reacting to when our triggers want to come up? Are we being triggered, and are we reacting, or are we not? And that's a piece of like this like shadow stuff that's working its way up, where the dark stuff is still trying to like ping us into having a reaction. Because what happens when we have a reaction? Do we go into self-beat up? Do we go into doubt? Do we go into, frustration, blame, guilt, shame, righteousness? What is our thing when we go into reactions? And I know I had two big ones this week. One, my controlling nature came out. My out of alignment controller came out, and I was demasculating my husband on him. And then he got frustrated, and then he had his trigger. I had my trigger, he had his trigger, and then we didn't speak for days during our 20th anniversary. So it was like, but it had to happen because we both had a reaction, and it came up. And where did I go? Guilt, shame, blah, blah, blah. So then I'm sitting in my shit within the guilt, shame, and all that stuff. The other thing is, yesterday, my daughter was triggering. She was just moody. She's a 15-year-old, cranky, moody teenager at times. And she's in her stress mode, which then means she gets mean. Like, she gets, teenager-y mean. And I had a reaction, and I realized, whoa, I felt disrespected. I felt hurt. And instead, I had a reaction on her. And then I went into guilt and shame, and then I shamed her. So then there's like, again, this is like the dark stuff that's trying to pull up to keep us locked down, keep these power over dynamics going on, versus if I could have really been in my essence, really been in my heart, I could have seen it for what it really is. I could have seen, oh, my controlling nature really wants to come up right now, not in a good aligned way. I'm feeling unsafe right now. And I get to tell my husband I'm not feeling safe right now. And it was all around walking the dogs. he was too much of a loose leash for me and the bikers going by, and I was afraid that the dog was going to get hurt, right? Instead of saying, I could have said, hey, I'm not feeling comfortable right now because I feel like the dog may get hit. I was like in, get him, grab him. Like I was in that kind of attitude, right? Yesterday with my daughter being a little moody and snappy with me, that I went right back into snappy with her. I could have said, right now I'm not feeling happy about, or I'm feeling, upset with how you're reacting to me. Or I'll speak to you once you're able to approach a different way. Instead, I was like, and the F-bomb came out. So this kind of piece is what we are in right now. It's watching our reactions and really being present with what's presenting. So this is part of it, is like the entity piece is coming up. It's not us. I know my true nature is not to get angry at my daughter. My true nature is to help guide her through what's happening. My true nature is to be vulnerable and express what I'm feeling. So whatever that is at that moment, but taking my anger out on someone else is not okay. So if I was angry, I can say, I'm angry right now. I'm going to step away. So this is what's up for us. There's another key piece, and I just saw a message. Jacob, welcome to everyone who just joined us as well. The other piece that's presenting that really wants to come up is there's a divine masculine piece, kind of like a wounded masculine piece that's trying to move through all of us right now. And this feels really connected to our father's lineage. So if you grew up being raised by your father, if you were not raised by your father, there is something here for you. And so there's this piece of the father ancestry that's all overlaid with parts of this reaction that we're having and how we're writing through things. So when we go into our meditation, I want to bring up our father's lineage, our father piece, and see what data sets, what starts to present for us, what awarenesses are coming through of how we are still enmeshed in our father's energy, whether we were raised by our father or not. Okay, so that enmeshment, there's a piece of like the divine masculine that's really trying to authentically come online, but we're still sourcing collectively and even within ourselves a wounded piece, an out of aligned piece that is not ours to have, but for us to release so we can be more in. So there's a part of what we're working through right now is detangling energies that are not ours through, again, the entity piece, but also through our father's energies. So even if, let's say, you weren't even raised by a biological father, that energy is still in. There's a DNA piece. There's a lineage imprint that's in there that really wants to start to get released and cleaned up. So that's where we're headed today. There's a lot. there's a lot. It's all going to weave together. Does anyone want to share anything before we really start diving in? And I'll read what Destin had to say. I thought what I was feeling was ancestral. Yes, I'm telling you right now, most of the work I'm doing is I may be clearing entities out and everything, but it is so ancestral. That's like the number one thing I've been called to work on right now. It's so ancestral. And we have entities that are ancestral entities that are carried down from generation to generation to generation. I think of it as like, if you have a family like coat of arms, or you have some type of like family lineage piece, like there's something that gets passed down. This is the same thing. It's kind of just like the same, if there's a curse from many generations before that just gets passed down from lifetime, for generation to generation to generation. So this piece is very, very connected.